Miss Kristi here, and I am so excited to be together again cooking in the kitchen. Today we are learning how to make microwaved mashed potatoes. This small meal or snack uses just 3 main ingredients. It will cook in our microwave for just 10 minutes, and we will make 1 bowl of tasty mashed potatoes for ourselves. We're gonna have fun making this together today, and I'm so glad you're here.
Always calm and always bright tonight.
Now, the first step to cooking and working in the kitchen is to wash our hands. While I wash my hands with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds, let's go over the ingredients and supplies that you'll need to gather to cook along today. The ingredients you'll need are 2 small potatoes, 1/4 cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of butter, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. The supplies you'll need are a cutting board, small mixing bowl, a strainer or colander, liquid measuring cup, vegetable peeler, 1 tablespoon, 1/2 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon, a butter knife, a fork, and oven mitts for safety. Okay, great. Your hands are clean and my hands are clean. We've gathered our ingredients and supplies, so let's get started making our microwave mashed potatoes. I'm really excited about this small snack or meal because I love mashed potatoes, and it's great that we can now just have a way to pop them in the microwave. We don't have to cook them on the stovetop, and they still turn out really good. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab my 2 small potatoes and my vegetable peeler. So I'm not going to rinse these first because I feel like the potatoes get too slippery. We are gonna rinse them once we cut them up to get any little dirt that might be on there. But for now, I'm just going to take my 2 dried potatoes and we're gonna peel them with our vegetable peeler. So I'm just holding one end. If we rinse them, they get a little bit slippery. So I'm just peeling them. And I put down a paper towel to peel the peels onto. You don't have to. You could peel them right onto your cutting board. I just think it's a bit easier to clean up. You could also peel them into a little bowl and then just dump out the bowl when you're done. I'm just holding an end and using my vegetable peeler, and I'm pushing it away from me to peel these 2 potatoes. And next we will cut them, and then we will rinse them. So we just need to take the peel off. Unless you like mashed potatoes that have the peel on, you could skip this part and we could go straight to cutting them if you like to keep the peel of your potato on. But for this one, for my mashed potatoes, I like them to be peeled. So I'm just holding an end and carefully pushing away from me. This vegetable peeler is sharp, so if you need help with this part, definitely have a friend or family member help you if you need it. And it just takes a little bit of practice to use one if you've never used one before. So I got one side done, I'm just turning it around. I'm going to peel the other side. Like I said, putting a paper towel down and peeling it right onto it is helpful because then you can just throw your paper towel right away with all the peels on it. All right, once we have them peeled, you can set your vegetable peeler to the side. We are now done with that. Like I said, with my little paper towel here, I'm gonna set that to the side and throw those away in a minute. Makes easy cleanup. Now I'm just going to cut these into cubes. It makes our potatoes cook faster in our microwave. So I'm going to grab my butter knife. Now, you can use a sharper knife if you feel comfortable. I'm using a butter knife because it does the job and it's a bit safer. So I'm just taking 1 potato right on my cutting board in front of me. I'm going to cut it in half, holding one side, and then I'm just cutting little chunks. This doesn't have to be perfect. We are going to mash these once they are cooked in our microwave. I just want to get smaller pieces. Okay, so all I did was cut it in half. I'm holding the potato with my fingernails, basically, holding it in place, cut it in half, and then taking my half, and again, just cutting chunks. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to get mashed. This just helps it cook a little bit faster. Last one. Now 2 small potatoes makes, I think, a good amount for one person. You could use 1 big potato. If you make this more than once, you could use a little bit more potatoes. You'd have to probably add a bit more milk when we add that part. But for this recipe, we are just going to use 2 small potatoes. Now that we have them cut, I want to rinse them because we didn't rinse them in the beginning, and I want to get any little pieces of dirt off. So I'm going to take my colander or strainer, whatever you may call it, and I'm going to put these potatoes right in there. And then we're going to rinse them in our sink, and then we pop them in our bowl. So I'm gonna bring this over to my sink, and I'm going to rinse these off and then put them right into the bowl that they'll go in the microwave in. All right, friends, so we have just rinsed our potatoes. And now all we need to do is put them into our small mixing bowl, cover them with water, and then pop them in our microwave. So I'm gonna grab my small mixing bowl. It was in our supply list, whatever size you think, but I wanna show you one thing when we put our potatoes in. So all I'm gonna do now is just take my potatoes and pop them in here. If there's a little bit of water that gets in there, that's okay. Keep your strainer in your sink because we will end up dumping these out. But now that they're in our bowl, we need to cover them with water. We're not gonna measure the water because depending on how big your bowl is, we just need to cover our potatoes with water. So I'm going to just turn my water on. And you can see that they are covered with water, and we will end up dumping this water out. So it doesn't matter how much you have, you just wanna have a little bit of room where there's a little bit above your potatoes, not all the way to the top, but my potatoes are definitely covered. Now this just needs to go in our microwave for 10 minutes. We let it cook the whole time, and when we get them out, then we will dump that extra water out. So now that they're covered in water and ready to go in the microwave, we're gonna put them in for 10 minutes. All right, friends, this is exciting because our microwave mashed potatoes are now done cooking in the microwave, and we are almost done putting them together to eat them. Now, we have oven mitts on our supply list because that bowl is going to be very hot. We cooked it for 10 straight minutes in the microwave, and there's hot water in there. So this is the part that if you need help getting this out of the microwave, please ask for help from someone, or you just need to be very careful. I am gonna put oven mitts on because I'm not touching that bowl with my hands. You will burn yourself. So what we're gonna do now is put our oven mitts on for safety and carefully take out our bowl, walk it over to your sink, and I still have my colander or my strainer in my sink, and I'm going to dump that bowl right into here in the sink because we're draining out that extra water that we did not need for our mashed potatoes. So I'm going to take out my bowl, dump it into my strainer, and then we will talk about the next step. All right, friends, so now my potatoes are in my strainer in the sink. All that water has dumped out and my potatoes are nice and warm. All I'm gonna do now is take my potatoes and put them back in that same bowl. That bowl is gonna be hot, so when I take it out of my sink, I'm gonna carry it with an oven mitt, but I'm just going to dump them back into the bowl. That strainer can stay in your sink. We're done using that. I'm gonna put one oven mitt on, and I'm just gonna bring this bowl right back in front of me. So basically all we've done is cook these in the oven or in our microwave for 10 minutes, and now we get to add those other ingredients to make them taste really good. I'm going to do the butter first because I want that butter to melt. I'm not gonna mix this up just yet. I want that heat to stay inside the potato as much as possible so it melts our butter. So from here, you're going to grab your 1 tablespoon, it says 1 TBSP, and your butter. And then the same butter knife that we used to cut the potatoes, I'm gonna use that butter knife again. Now, as I always say, if your butter has the lines on it, we only need 1 tablespoon of butter. So if you have a stick of butter and it has the lines, you can cut 1 line, and that's a tablespoon. If not, if you have a tub of butter, you can just take your butter knife and scoop in 1 tablespoon of butter, just measuring it. best of our ability to get it all in there. And this is all we're using this tablespoon for. So I have about a tablespoon of butter, and now I'm going to pop that into my potatoes. And the heat from cooking them is going to start to melt that butter. You can put your butter knife to the side, you can put any extra butter to the side, and you can put your tablespoon to the side. We are done with all of those. Now I'm just going to grab my fork. My bowl has cooled down enough that I can touch it, and I'm just taking this butter and mixing it around, and I'm also mashing up my potatoes. The fun part is you can see that after 10 minutes of cooking in some water in our microwave, these potatoes are now mashable and cooked to where we can eat them. They're not hard like they were when we put them in the bowl before we cooked them. So that lets me know that 10 minutes is a good amount of time to get these potatoes nice and soft. All right, my butter is mixed around and it started to melt. And now I'm going to, if a little bit falls out, that's no big deal. I'm going to add my milk. So this is gonna help creamy it up a little bit. Right now, if we just ate it, it would still be pretty chunky, but the milk is gonna help us make them creamy even more. So I'm going to grab my liquid measuring cup, and I'm going to grab my milk. You could use almond milk or you could use soy milk. This is just regular cow's milk, dairy milk, so you can go ahead and use whatever milk you have in your kitchen. We need 1/4 cup. So I have my liquid measuring cup. We are gonna measure 1/4 cup. It's gonna say 1/4. I'm gonna keep that on a flat surface to get a nice even measure. 1/4 cup. And put your milk to the side, and we are going to pour this right over our mashed potatoes. You can set your liquid measuring cup to the side. That's all we needed that for. And now I'm just going to take my fork and keep mashing and stir these together. Stir, stir, stir. Keep mashing my potatoes, and this will start to thicken up a little bit as we keep mashing. Now, depending on the size of your potatoes, when you try this on your own, you might have to adjust the milk. That's the biggest liquid, or the only liquid that we have in our mashed potatoes. So if you make it and that was too much milk, next time use a little bit less. If you have big potatoes and you make this and it's not enough milk, then you can always add a little bit more. I would do a tablespoon at a time. You could use the same tablespoon that we use for the butter and add a little bit more at a time. But you can kind of see as we stir this up with our fork, it's starting to thicken to make these delicious mashed potatoes. I'm gonna pause because we're gonna stir it a little bit more once we add our salt and pepper. I'm now going to grab my 1/2 teaspoon, it says 1/2 TSP, and my salt. And I'm just going to scoop out 1/2 teaspoon of salt and sprinkle it right over top. Now, salt and pepper are really your preference. This is the amount that I like on my mashed potatoes. If you taste these and you don't think they're salty enough, go ahead and sprinkle a little bit more on. Next time, if you think it's too salty, maybe use a little bit less. But for me, this was a good amount. I like to measure things to know exactly how much I need. So we put 1/2 teaspoon of salt in. You can put your 1/2 teaspoon to the side, you're done with that. Now you need to grab your 1/4 teaspoon. So this is the one that says 1/4 TSP. We're gonna use 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, so also grab your pepper. If you don't like pepper, don't use the pepper. I definitely use about half less than we did with the salt because pepper can be a little bit overpowering. So that's why I'm only using 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Sprinkle that right on top. You can put your pepper to the side. You can put your 1/4 teaspoon. We are done with that because we're basically done. We just need to mix this up. So I've still got my fork in here. Going to mix this together so I don't see a ton of pepper. I want that salt to be all mixed around. But you can see that even though when we first added that milk, it maybe looked like a little bit too much. Once we stir and get those potatoes mashed up even more, it's the perfect amount for these 2 small potatoes. So we've mixed it all together. I'm using the back of my fork to mash just a little bit more to make sure I don't have any chunks. If you like your mashed potatoes a little bit chunky, go for it. Leave some chunks in there. That's the joy of cooking for yourself in the kitchen, that you can create these dishes that you like. Maybe you want to put a different seasoning in here. Maybe you want to put a little bit of, I don't know, ranch, cheese, something in there. This is just a basic recipe to make microwave mashed potatoes, and then you could add some different things as you continue to try this recipe. But my friends, this is it. We have just in 10 minutes made mashed potatoes for ourselves. This makes a pretty great bowl. So this could be a small meal. Maybe this is a snack that you just pop in the microwave. It didn't take us very long, and there was only those 3 main ingredients: potatoes, milk, and butter. And then we added a little bit of salt and pepper. So I do hope you try and make these, or try and make them again. And when you do, let me know how it goes. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. You can even send me a picture of how your microwave mashed potatoes turned out. I'd love to get to see your creation. Maybe you did add another ingredient. I'd love to hear about it. And maybe we could share it next week. You can always send it to me on social media or my email on my YouTube channel. But speaking of next week, on next week's episode, which is episode 71, we are making microwavable lasagna bowl. This small meal uses 7 ingredients, cooks in our microwave for just 10 minutes, and we will make one tasty bowl of lasagna for ourselves. In order to cook along and make our microwave lasagna bowl, these are the ingredients that you'll need to have in your kitchen for next week. 2 no-boil lasagna sheets, 2 string cheese, half a cup of marinara sauce, half a cup of ricotta cheese, half a cup of cooked beef or sausage, which is optional, 1/4 teaspoon of basil, and 1/4 teaspoon oregano. Well, friends, our time together today is almost over. I do hope you've enjoyed learning how to make our microwave mashed potatoes. I know I had fun, and I already can't wait to cook together again next time. But before you say goodbye to this episode, make sure to click subscribe if you haven't already. You just have to click the little picture of me in the corner. That way you don't miss next week's episode. It'll be out on Friday, and I'll see you then. Bye, friends. It's time to eat.